Welcome to our Middle East briefing show. Today, we've got some sizzling stories from around the globe. First up, Boris Johnson is under fire as leaked data suggests he might have profited from contacts made during his time as Prime Minister, raising serious questions about corruption and misuse of funds. Critics are calling for him to lose his access to the official allowances, and the controversy is heating up. Next, in the US, Routh, accused of trying to take out Donald Trump, is making headlines for doing something quite unusual, representing himself in court. With quirky questions and eccentric behavior, his trial is turning into quite the spectacle, all amid heightened security and political tension ahead of the 2024 elections. Finally, in Brazil, President Lula is pushing for stronger trade ties among BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, hoping to counteract rising protectionism and trade wars. As tariffs and market tensions grow, these leaders are emphasizing solidarity and smarter trade strategies to keep their economies thriving. Please continue to watch for more detailed insights. The Guardian reports on the mounting allegations against Boris Johnson, the former UK Prime Minister, who is accused of profiting from contacts made during his time in office. Leaked data, obtained by the non-profit organization Distributed Denial of Secrets, reveals that Johnson may have engaged in lobbying activities, including a meeting with a senior Saudi official to pitch ideas to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and receiving over £200,000 after a meeting with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. These revelations raise serious questions about whether Johnson misused his ex-prime ministerial allowance, which is intended to cover public duties, not private or commercial pursuits. Calls are growing for Johnson to be stripped of his access to this allowance, with critics emphasizing the deep-rooted sleaze within the Conservative Party and demanding a thorough investigation into these potential breaches of conduct. The South China Morning Post details the tense courtroom proceedings in Florida where Routh, accused of attempting to assassinate Donald Trump during a golf outing, appeared before potential jurors. Routh, representing himself, expressed remorse for bringing the case into the courtroom, while the judge, Aileen Cannon, scrutinized his requests and managed the jury selection process. The trial, scheduled to last 4 weeks, stems from an incident where Routh allegedly aimed a rifle at Trump while the former president was playing golf, only to be thwarted by a Secret Service agent. Routh's background is marked by violent and erratic behavior, including past arrests for weapons-related offenses, and he faces multiple federal charges including attempted murder and assaulting a federal officer. The case, which echoes previous assassination attempts on Trump, has garnered significant attention due to its implications for security and political stability. Nikkei Asia reports on Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva's call for greater trade and financial cooperation among BRICS nations amid increasing protectionist measures. Lula condemned the rise of tariffs and trade barriers, which he sees as tools of market conquest and interference, citing the US and other countries' recent sanctions and tariffs as harmful to global economic stability. The meeting, attended virtually by leaders from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and other nations, emphasized the need for stronger solidarity and coordinated trade policies to counteract unilateral measures that threaten international commerce. Lula highlighted how US tariffs, particularly on Brazilian exports, have been a significant obstacle, and he plans to raise these issues directly with BRICS counterparts, advocating for a more integrated approach to counteract the negative impacts of trade wars and tariff disputes on developing economies. The BBC reports on the bizarre yet serious trial of Routh, a man accused of attempting to assassinate former President Donald Trump. Routh, who is representing himself, has shown a peculiar mix of eccentricity and seriousness, with questions about turtles in the road and comments about challenging Trump to a beatdown session or calling him an insecure ego idiot. During the jury selection process in Florida, Routh's unconventional inquiries and comments have added a surreal tone to the proceedings, but the gravity of the case remains clear. Prosecutors highlight the dangerous nature of his alleged plans, including hiding near Trump's golf course with a rifle, leaving behind a note stating it was an assassination attempt, and firing at agents. Despite his self-representation, the court is cautious, with the judge reminding Routh that his lawyers would likely serve him better, especially given the high-profile nature of the case involving potential threats against a presidential candidate. Yahoo US details the urgent message from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has called on residents of Gaza City to evacuate immediately amid escalating tensions and ongoing conflict. Netanyahu's stark warning underscores the severity of the current military and political crisis, as Israel prepares for possible large-scale operations in the densely populated Gaza Strip. The situation remains tense, with the threat of widespread violence looming, and Netanyahu's call for evacuation highlights the potential for a significant escalation in hostilities. The plea comes amidst a backdrop of ongoing military activity, and the international community watches closely, concerned about the humanitarian impact of any impending conflict and the safety of civilians caught in the crossfire. The Independent reports on the alarming sinking of Wenden, a small town in rural Arizona, which is losing over 2 inches of ground each year due to groundwater depletion and climate change. As the Colorado River's water levels continue to plummet, Wenden's residents are forced to dig deeper wells. One owner, Rob McDermott, had to spend $120,000 to drill an 800-foot well after his previous supply dried up. The town relies heavily on groundwater, but with nearly 80% of Arizona lacking regulation over water extraction, megafarms and corporations are draining resources at an unsustainable rate. This unchecked overpumping causes land subsidence, further destabilizing the ground, and exacerbates the crisis as water rights are bought and sold in a system with little oversight. The situation has prompted legal action, including a lawsuit by Arizona's Attorney General against Fondamont, a Saudi-owned dairy company accused of depleting local groundwater, illustrating the complex and urgent challenges facing communities like Wenden in the face of climate change and corporate greed. According to CNN, Qatar's prime minister has actively urged Hamas to respond positively to a new U.S. ceasefire proposal amid ongoing tensions in Gaza. During a meeting in Doha with Hamas chief negotiator, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman bin Jassim Al Thani emphasized the importance of cooperation, as the U.S.'s plan involves the immediate release of all 48 hostages by Hamas, in exchange for the liberation of thousands of Palestinian prisoners. The proposal also envisions a ceasefire that would hold as long as negotiations continue, with U.S. President Donald Trump promising to ensure stability. The situation remains tense, with Israeli officials considering the proposal seriously, while Hamas and other groups express cautious optimism, calling it a true breakthrough and urging full Israeli support to secure the release of all hostages, including those who have fallen or are injured. The coming days are seen as crucial in determining whether the proposal will lead to a lasting peace, especially as Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's stance has shifted from partial to comprehensive demands, complicating the negotiations. Meanwhile, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation reports a dramatic episode from Sydney's criminal underworld, where a notorious crime boss, Rafat Alameddin, allegedly offered a staggering $1 million bounty to have a rival murdered during a violent feud in 2021. The court proceedings have revealed that Alameddin, who now resides in Lebanon, was at the helm of a violent organized crime network involved in drug trafficking and violent disputes in Western Sydney, notably with the Hamzi family. The court heard how Alameddin's network placed a bounty on Bilal Hams, who was murdered in June 2021, and how police believe Alameddin himself conspired to orchestrate the killing of Ibrahim Hams, who narrowly escaped an assassination attempt. The trial has brought to light chilling details of the underworld's brutality, including a failed hit that ended with police thwarting the attempt and suspects fleeing in a car, with police relying on wiretapped conversations to piece together the case. The trial continues as authorities seek justice for the violent acts committed during this intense criminal rivalry. Lastly, Yahoo US reports that Spain has taken a firm stance amid the Gaza conflict by banning Israeli-bound weapons ships and planes from its territory. This decision reflects Spain's concern over the escalation of violence and its implications for regional stability. The ban aims to prevent military supplies from reaching the conflict zone, signaling a diplomatic move to distance itself from potential escalation and to promote a peaceful resolution. The measure underscores the broader international response to the Gaza war, with countries grappling with how best to balance diplomatic pressures, humanitarian concerns, and security interests as the conflict persists. Spain's action highlights the growing international effort to curb the flow of weapons into the region and to advocate for a ceasefire, emphasizing the global desire to see an end to the violence and restore stability. BBC reports that British MPs are fiercely debating the government's decision to proscribe Palestine Action, a group accused of terrorism, after a weekend marked by mass arrests, 890 in London alone, drawing comparisons to historic riots and sparking widespread criticism. Labour MPs like Stella Creasy warn that labeling peaceful protesters as terrorists dilutes the gravity of genuine threats, while Security Minister Dan Jarvis defends the ban, emphasizing that the group's alleged violent activities justify the crackdown. The arrests, which included elderly constituents and peaceful demonstrators, have been condemned as authoritarian and disproportionate, with some MPs calling for a review of terrorism laws to better balance security and civil liberties. Jeremy Corbyn, now independent, and other opposition figures have voiced concern over the suppression of peaceful protest, suggesting that the government's actions are heavy-handed and potentially unjust. Meanwhile, conservative critics like Chris Philp support the government's stance, condemning the group's violent acts and emphasizing that political disputes should be resolved through debate, not repression. The debate underscores a tense clash between national security measures and the right to peaceful protest, with many fearing that the government's approach risks undermining democratic freedoms while justifying the ban on Palestine action as necessary to prevent violence. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.
Turn the lights on screen. What's the latest scene? Just you and me, laugh and disagree. On the couch we sit.